Well, this is One Bad Apple, and from the top, quick run through, we find out in this episode that Apple Bloom's cousin Babs Seed is coming over for a visit, and Apple Bloom's really excited about that. It's going to be 2 weeks. Babs Seed is from Manhattan, so she wants to make a good impression, and she's starting out. She's doing this like outfit show, which was pretty cute. I don't know if that was to market toys or whatever, but I mean it was pretty cute. And also, anyway, then Applejack tries to hurry her up. They're late, and she tells her that Babs does not have a cutie mark on the way she mentions that. So, yeah, starting out, Apple Bloom wants to get Babs in on the cutie mark Crusaders. She's really excited by the chances of that happening, the prospect of a new member and everything. So she gets Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle, and they all meet Babs at the station, give her a big enthusiastic greeting, which seems to overwhelm her. And yeah, I mean, she's trying to be nice, but she doesn't seem sure of what to think of them. So they tell her about their club, but she seems more embarrassed by her lack of a cutie mark than anything else. She doesn't seem very impressed with their little clubhouse rooms and stuff like that. And just, yeah, how kids play club. I mean, that doesn't seem like it's impressing her on its own. So then they show her, though, this float they've built to enter this upcoming parade at this festival thing. And this seems to start to impress her until the two bullies, Diamond Tiara and Muggsy, show up, and they start to make fun of them as usual. The Crusaders are pretty submissive this time around. They kind of take it as sad sack instead of just like, oh, come on, like they usually do. So, but Babs, however, when the bullies hear she's from Manhattan, they're a little bit impressed with that, even though they at first started making fun of her for her lack of a cutie mark. So they tell her, they say, "Are you really going to hang around with these lame cutie mark Crusaders?" And then Babs steps so subtly into the shadows and says, "More like the cutie mark crybabies." And then she actually starts picking on the Crusaders to impress the two bullies. So the Crusaders, they're not sure how to handle this at first. They still sort of shy away from everything. They just aren't able to really hold their ground in this episode. So okay, we get a little montage of them just trying to avoid Babs until she goes home, but they're just getting wailed on, and I mean, yeah, all to a catchy music video. And anyway, they decide to pay her back, and they build a new float to which they rig to go off while Babs is driving it. They, well, I mean, of course, Babs wouldn't drive it if they just said, "Hey, we built a float for you." So what they do is they pretend like it's their new, better float. They dress it up with a gold covering. So yeah, they like it's really something to show off. They trick Babs into stealing it from them, and then they wait for the booby trap they've set to go off to dump her into a mud pit. But then Applejack goes by and mentions that well, she's proud of them for letting Babs ride in their float, because yeah, Babs has been taking all kinds of bullying back in Manhattan over her lack of a cutie mark, and it got so bad that she actually came on this trip just for a brief reprieve from it. So, and then the Crusaders feel really bad. They try to go and catch her, and I mean, even though Babs is still being a jerk to them, like making fun of them from inside the float, they manage to get in. They knock her out. They take the fall themselves, and Babs is actually grateful for that one. So they, even after she hears that they were the ones who rigged it in the first place, so they start again. She joins the Cutie Mark Crusaders, and then on the way out, she promises to, one, start a new branch in Manhattan, two, tell her sister about all the bullying, because this episode's moral. Yeah, when they threaten to tell on Babs the first time, like, "Oh, you're not snitches, are you?" And then the whole time they are doing it, they're not telling anyone just to prove they're not snitches. And later on, it's almost like because they're just afraid Babs will hurt them or make fun of them for it or something. But anyway, so Applejack said, "I could have just fixed all this if you'd come and told me." So, okay, that's, of course, we would have fixed everything. And she leaves, and they're all friends now. And this episode actually had a very particular effect. It reminded me very strongly of what I'm pretty sure was the first episode I ever saw deal with bullying. It was from this show, Shining Time Station, if you've ever heard of it, which combining the old Thomas the Tank Engine stories with a framework of these kids that would visit Shining Time Station and have little day-in-the-life adventures with a colorful cast, and then this magical, tiny little man who lived in the mural on the wall. There he would visit them and tell them the stories of Thomas the Tank Engine to help with the lesson of the day, and to just be a good friend and be like their mentor. I mean, you're probably more familiar with actually the movie version, Thomas and the Magic Railroad, sort of the capstone to the series, which was terrible, and the Nostalgia Critic did a review on it, and as he should have. I mean, everybody probably know, well, a lot of people probably know about it now and know that it was terrible, but don't be fooled. The show was well, it did have its weaknesses. It didn't have the highest budget. It probably depended a little too much on like mediocre child actors, limited range, all that. It was actually, its adult actors were pretty good. First of all, they were a lot of fun. It had minor celebrities, but won't get into that. And it just really seemed to have a lot of respect for just the sort of the dignity of the railroad. It was sort of a dignified show itself, even though it had comic relief. Like I said, some of the adult actors were pretty colorful characters, could be pretty funny. So yeah, the movie got worst of the year nominations from critics. The show got Emmy nominations, and I hope that speaks for itself. And I'm going on about this because I actually don't feel like I can put my feelings of this episode totally in context without talking about this episode from this show. So if you could bear with me for a second, because the episode from the show, which is titled "A Bully for Mr. Conductor," that this reminded me of, features two of the kids visiting the station, and the regular station manager, who is the aunt of one of the kids, she has to leave for the day, so instead the head of the railway, her boss, is watching the station, and he brings his nephew that he wants them to entertain, and the aunt warns them on the way out that the nephew is not the easiest kid to get along with. His name's Buster, and so of course he's like mini Biff Tannen with a stupid hat on. He the nephew of the head of the railway, and he is well, he's a bully, you might expect. He starts throwing his weight around right away. He tries to like graffiti on the walls, and which they stop him, but so then he moves on to threatening them. That's, I guess, when the bullying really starts. He threatens to get the aunt fired because his uncle is the aunt's boss. Threatening them with the uncle's authority, threatening with the fact that he's bigger, like he steals money from the one kid, the main character. He steals money from him and this bully, and then a frenemy of theirs, another character, comes by. He's an adult, but he's sometimes he's the bad guy in the show. His name was actually Schemer, but I only bring this up because the important thing is at first he thinks to side with the kids, the main characters, but when the bully reveals that he is the nephew of the head of the railroad, who's over in the other room watching the station, the frenemy Schemer, he takes the bully's side instead, which is kind of like same kind of theme of this episode, being threatened into switching sides. So, I mean, again, lots of similarities here. So he actually starts helping the bully, sort of getting him stuff, buying him treats, just working at his beck and call. So, okay, that's one adult that's not going to help. And then they actually go to tell the bully's uncle, the head of the railroad, who's the only other one in the station. But he's sort of eccentric, like I mentioned the Mr. Conductor character before, and this head of the railroad guy, every time, like his whole gimmick is looking for Mr. Conductor. He knows that this magical little man who lives in the mural exists. He actually met him once when he was a kid, so now he's obsessed with finding him again, but he never does. So, and he's so caught up in that he doesn't even really take in what they're telling them, and then plus the bully is a pretty good suck-up, so he doesn't see anything wrong. So, okay, the other adult is not going to help them. One of the two, the girl, she goes home, and then the kid who's, the main character of this episode, he can't. So, like I said, his aunt works at the station. This is where he has to go for the day, and he doesn't have, he can't leave. So, okay, he's stuck here with this bully. So then Mr. Conductor shows up. Mr. Conductor is played by George Carlin, which was amusing, but no time for that. And he did a good job, George Carlin. But okay, George Carlin starts telling him a Thomas the Tank Engine story, and also shows him music video. Like, this is actually what reminded me of this here. This Bad Seed song from One Bad Apple reminded me of this, because this episode, A Bully for Mr. Conductor, has its own bullying song, which is sung over clips of old cartoons. But I mean, it's still like a half decent song. I mean, and there's a point to it too, which if you want to check it out, I'll put the link there. But Okay, so, and the message of both the music video and the story is that, well, a little different here. Well, first of all, he says, stand up for yourself without picking a fight. That's the line, but I mean, what the music videos and sort of portrays is along those lines, but more importantly, establishing that, yeah, bullies, they do this because they think they can get away with it. And you have to stand up and say, yeah, I've had enough. This is not okay. And, Dan, though, he's afraid that Buster has threatened to beat him up. He's afraid to risk a fight with somebody bigger. If I didn't say that, the kid who's left, his name is Dan. So, okay, so Buster comes back. Mr. Conductor decides that he's going to talk to Buster for Dan. And so Buster comes in and he recognizes Mr. Conductor. He's heard how his uncle's always looking for this tiny little man. So he says, so he decides that he's after Mr. Conductor now. It tells Dan to get out of his way, but Dan, that's the line he won't cross. Then he decides to take Mr. Conductor's solution. He refuses. He said, you leave Mr. Conductor alone. You lay one hand on him and wait till you see what I'm going to do to you. He's saying, I'm not going to take this from you. You're not going to get away with this. I'm not going to let it happen. And then ultimately the adult in the room does step in. The uncle overhears. He realizes what's happening from the bullies' retreating threats. And, yeah, he steps in to solve the problem. So, okay. And when I was growing up, this was pretty much the only episode that took that approach. Like, Disney was on a big kick with this when I was growing up. Their message was always sort of like, hey, you may have heard of, like, that you're supposed to stand up to bullies. Well, listen to hip Uncle Walt here, 21st century Disney. Like, we've got it figured out. You know, you don't do that because then bullies can beat you up. I mean, that's just how it is, right? You know, you have to play it cool. You have to be slick. You have to sort of see if you can get them to like you and maybe manipulate your way into getting them to let you keep some of what they're trying to steal from you, or strengthen numbers, or that sort of thing. And growing up, even at the time, I'm 12 years old, watching Disney, saying that I know that the stuff that Disney is talking about, allegedly for us older kids, is BS. So that's kind of funny that the show for younger kids is the one that seems to have a better sense of it and seems to draw itself up to stand a little prouder there. And now that I'm older, you know, even though the cracks are starting to show through now, like I said, the kid in the Shining Time Station episode, he does jump to sort of threatening to outfight this bully, and it was appropriate. I mean, he's protecting someone who can't fight back, who can't do anything except get hit, one of his friends. So, I mean, he wants to draw attention off of him and off of the friend and onto him. And I mean, it's appropriate, but I mean, it mentioned that, okay, you're supposed to stand up for yourself. You're not supposed to pick a fight. You're also not supposed to run from it, but you're not supposed to pick a fight. And I mean, so, okay, could have made that a little bit clearer, even though it was there. But even so, even though I can see the cracks, now I even go farther with it. I consider it the best episode, one of the best episodes on bullying I've ever seen, because from everything I've seen, witnessed, I firmly believe that, okay, the most important thing to stress in a message about bullying, even more important than just figuring out what's going to get the job done, like knowing to the proper way or the most efficient way to make the actual attacks stop the fastest, or minimize them the most. I think even more than that, the most important thing to emphasize is self-respect. Because the number one detriment of bullying is that kids lose faith in themselves, that they are made to feel like less. They don't feel like getting as involved, and they don't have as much faith in what they can do and what they're worth. And it generally leads to unhappiness, to the idea that that's just a part of life, getting something that they owe it to themselves not to take. So the most important thing to stress is pride, self-respect, faith in your own strength, the firm notion that you don't have to take it. This is not how it's supposed to be. You deserve better than this. And if you've seen this episode, One Bad Apple, back to that, at long last, you might have guessed that is exactly where I think it falls unforgivably short. I am legitimately a little bit bothered by the thought of kids watching this and thinking that this is how they have to or like using it as their example, just even sort of implicitly thinking of this as how they have to deal with it. Because this episode, I mean, basically, it's structured. It has three solutions. You tell somebody, you take it. This is the solution. This is what you're doing otherwise, and this pitiful payback is the wrong solution. Then you're a bully too, and that's it. And that is just that's wrong, frankly. That it really is like from the top. The effect it's going for, it has the Cutie Mark Crusaders sort of wilt away from Babs and Diamond Tiara to sort of delay the point. Like, I mean, what happens when you don't tell on someone? Because I mean, or when you don't tell someone because they want them to be at a neutral point where they're choosing either pitiful payback or telling someone. And I mean, and because I mean, what they actually say at the one point, we have to fight back, and fighting back means pitiful revenge. Nobody brings up the option of spine in this episode because it wants to drive that point home to tell somebody. But I mean, it's even without the message, it's not fun to watch. It's like, because you start out with Crusaders, the minute Diamond Tiara comes by, they start playing sad sack, and I mean, you're looking at it like, okay, one, that's not how I mean most people act in this kind of situation. I mean, this is seems, I mean, they're kind of turning into pushovers all of a sudden, and I mean, yeah, this is just wrong. This is not how you're supposed to react like this. Why are you, Joe? Why are you sort of dumping on these characters? Like, even to the extent that I'm invested in these characters from however into the show I've gotten, it's like, yeah, it's kind of sad to see them taking it. You want to say like, yeah, girl, you're better than this. Like, what? And it becomes clear soon enough that, yeah, this not only is this, I mean, some episodes show you this so they can correct it later, but I mean, it becomes pretty clear that this episode doesn't want to correct this. It wants them to learn to tell somebody, but I mean, yeah, the Bab Seed song, they actually say at one point, hiding from a bully, well, we know it isn't right, but the Cutie Mark Crusaders, we aren't looking for a fight. And I'm like, oh, well, then it's okay. I mean, it's wrong. It's like the notion of this happening, it just feels wrong. Yeah, but the episode where they're on they wilt from anything to avoid a fight, I mean, it's almost like played up. It's almost like, supposed to be half, like, unloving. It seems like they have this whole montage with that Bab Seed song. I'm like, this is catchy. This is very well done, and I enjoy it even a little bit. It's almost like masochistic. It's just like celebrating that. Like, the other song I mentioned from the Shining Time Station episode, I wish somebody would show up and sing that to them, because I mean, I watched that episode again so I could tell you all about it there. And I mean, you get to that song, and I mean, it's like, that is just so much more right. I mean, because it actually has, I mean, this line in it, well, first half of it is telling you about, like, identifying with the situation, what bullies will do, how they'll make you feel, and then what is the one line where it says the solution's like, all right, a bully is a guy who likes to think he's tough, but underneath, he's got something, he's mama's powder puff, and if you finally stand your ground and shout, I've had enough, that bully will get going when he sees the going's rough. And I mean, it doesn't always work out that perfectly, but, I mean, that's the line of the day here. I've had enough. I do not have to take this. I deserve better than this. I've had enough. And that is the thing that is never said once in this entire episode. And then over to Babs, they also want to throw in a moral on how she was bullied and sort of how to address that and how to recognize that some people sort of suffer from that and become bullies themselves. Like, okay, but you still have to keep your morals straight in addressing that. And nobody, I mean, because nobody is showing the right solution to Babs' behavior there. It is not, I mean, if they're saying that, okay, what she did was forgivable because she was being bullied, no. Okay, it is not your job to let someone vent on you because they have issues. I mean, Babs, she has a sympathetic story leading up to this. What she's doing, enjoying the bullying is so much better than being bullied and getting into it. That's not sympathetic. That's hypocritical. And I mean, if the episode had the Crusaders find their own way through this, learn to hold their ground. I mean, and then maybe showed sympathy to Babs, like defend her from a Fairweather Diamond Tiara, then okay, maybe it would have had something there, but nope, not only is what the Crusaders did and are still doing by the end of the episode, just wilting, just like being sad sack and submissive. Not only is that negligible now, but they owe Babs an apology for turning into bullies at the end, and they have to redeem themselves by taking the fall themselves. Like, there is not one solution. Nobody presents the solution to Babs' behavior. The Crusaders' revenge saves the day, and nobody demonstrates. I mean, they say that coming in and, telling an adult will solve the problem, and I mean, it can. That's important to establish that is never off the table. That is important to learn, but it is treated like the end-all, be-all here, and it's not. If there was any end-all, be-all here, this would be a lot easier to deal with. This bullying would not be such an issue, but there's not, and it is. Even if you could avoid a bully like that, even if they take something from you, you're like, oh, I don't think I can correct this, or I don't want to try, I'm afraid of what risk is involved, and you just run, and you can avoid them the whole time, that you still have to live with yourself. And I mean, I think that people really underestimate that. Once you get it into your head that there's nothing I can do, that there's just no way out, that, the only thing to do is avoid it. I mean, that becomes your self-image a little bit. That, okay, yeah, I couldn't stop that person there, so I mean, whenever it comes to another situation with someone like that, I can't stop them either. I just have to get out of there, or else just take it if I can. Like, this is just how life is going to treat me. And nobody should be made to feel like that is just how it's going to be. I mean, a lot of people will be, which is why it's even more important to stress that is not okay. That if something like this happens to you, you owe it to yourself to say that you're not going to take it. You deserve better than this, and never let anyone make you think otherwise. I mean, I'm not saying I've seen it all, but I've seen it too many times. Bullying, the number one devastating effect, more than losing your favorite keychain, more than losing your lunch money, more than taking a bruise, the most devastating effect of bullying is the effect it has on the victim's sense of self-worth. And that is the most important thing to teach them above all else, to not lose faith in that. And so, I'm not saying this episode, I don't want pickets in the streets. I don't want Hasbro. This episode is not offensive. It is not. I don't see it as an attack. I mean, this is entirely within the realm of a review. This episode gets a negative vote from me because it is a disappointing disservice to its viewers. Nothing more, nothing less. And I mean, I'm sorry to be so much on my high horse this time around, because I mean, believe it or not, I don't like doing that. I don't want more of that. I mean, I don't want another even green isn't your color. Like, okay, well, now we need to look at where this show might be crossing a line. That wasn't fun for any of you. It wasn't fun for me. And I mean, obviously, after 2 seasons, I don't feel the need to look for that. I know perfectly well what this show's capable of. And, I don't like, I mean, nobody wishes more than me that I wasn't saying this. Because, I mean, especially since this show already had another episode, Putting Your Hook Down, that did a great job of addressing this issue, which is why this is almost so baffling to me. Like, Putting Your Hook Down did a great job of dealing with this, like establishing that, okay, somebody that will take advantage of your lack of self-worth and how to stand up for yourself. They said stand up for yourself, how to overcome that, and what is crossing a line, like picking a fight, and what is not crossing a line, being assertive, saying that, like, okay, person just like everyone else, I deserve this level of respect, and you will give it to me, or I will insist on it, and I will not let you take it. I mean, that episode did a great job. This one did not. I mean, I don't even want to bring the whole season 3, like, is it or isn't it, into this. No, like, this episode, whether the rest of the season 3 episodes are incredible or terrible, this episode is entirely the failure of whoever wrote it. Whoever the writer was this time around, that said, yeah, this is what's going to help kids deal with bullying. This is going to be an enjoyable episode for them to watch. And yeah, that is, they're failing in this circumstance, and that is as far as it goes. Maybe it speaks to something, a more general problem, and one that's more storytelling and less morality. That, I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but the basic failure of this episode is entirely tied to it, I would say, in my opinion. That's as far as I'm going with this. And I mean, and I'm sorry if you like this episode. I mean, even if you don't have like a moral problem with it, it's kind of just seems like the basic sort of milquetoast elementary school. Like, we do not fight here because, I mean, we've got a reputation as a school to maintain. We can't be one where fights happen. So above all, don't fight. And I mean, it's like it's just kind of a message like that, and not one that I think is done especially well. So I don't know who would love this episode so much. Like, that's all 3 strikes, man. I'm done. But I mean, I'm sorry if you do. I'm not looking to. I don't set out looking to take those kinds of things away from people, but I just don't compromise on this one. I think it's way too important, and I'm not going back on it. So, and the last point to make too, like, if you're someone who thinks like, I mean, okay, self-respect, sure, but I mean, isn't that the number one thing we should teach kids? Can't happen. Like, isn't your episode, The Shining Penn Station, isn't that still the more dangerous thing to show kids? Because, just they might think they can solve their problems by fighting. Like, shouldn't it always just be more than anything else about not fighting? I would say my answer would be that these episodes both seem to have a very clear idea of what they were aspiring to. They both made me believe that, what transpired before would lead to this point. It all seemed very in character for everyone. So I'll tell you what. You tell me which one is the ending to aspire to.
So you're leaving, huh? Great! Now we're stuck here with these lame blanks.
Hey, that's not how you talk to my friends.
Friends?
Yeah, you got a problem with that?
Well, what if I do? What are you gonna do about it?
Tell your mothers about your bad attitudes.
Oh, wow. Wait till J.B. King finds out that you scared off his nephew. His very special favorite nephew.
Yeah, we'll see how tough you are after I tell my dumb uncle what happened. Then I can draw on the walls all I want. Oh, hello, Uncle JB. I was just telling them about how well you run the railroad.
You're already in enough trouble, Buster. Don't make it worse by lying to me.
Oh, but whatever do you mean, Uncle JB? We were just having fun.
Buster, we'll talk about it later. Wait for me outside.
I never get to have any fun. It's all his fault.
Outside. Dan, in behalf of the entire King family, I apologize to you.
I'd just like to point out that it was all my idea that he did what he did. Here's a little ice cream cone for you. And if you have any other problems that you need to be solved, just give me a call. Oh, exalted one.
You were protecting someone smaller than yourself, weren't you? Well, that was a mighty fine thing to do. I'm proud of you, Dan. May I shake your hand? I think you should have this. And I think I should go have a little talk with my nephew.
Did you get to see Mr. Conductor?
No. But I somehow think he had his little hand in all of this, didn't he? So now I know that he's around here. Somewhere.